Straight line, no smoke. The move that hardens Golden State from sharp to ruthless is back on the board, a return of the 6'7". No drama closer who guarded stars in silence and swung a Kaleo finals with body blows instead of headlines. And I'm going to show you exactly how that piece fits this roster, how the numbers could line up under the new rules, and why the timing is smarter than it looks after an opening week that already told us who the Warriors want to be. I'm speaking as a lifelong fan who lives in the small details that actually win series. First step after the catch. Angle of the top lock when the weak side tag shows. How many clean Curry touches we buy in the slot before defenses start blinking? We went into Los Angeles and walked out with a 10-point win built on adult possessions, not fireworks. Jimmy Butler didn't just score. He set a metronome for the half court, cut the noise out of end-of-clock situations, and gave Steph room to steer the game without burning his legs with bailout threes. Stephen Curry showed what it looks like when space is earned. Not beg 23 points with control, pace management, and a second-half cadence that felt familiar to anyone who remembers those Avalanche quarters. Jonathan Kuminga gave us a grown man box score that matters in playoff languages 17. 9-6 in the column to pass up a good shot for a great one. That's the foundation for a wing who doesn't need the ball to matter and still puts a series in his pocket when the moment calls. And that's why this conversation isn't fluff. It's a plan forming in the margins. Here's what I'm unpacking for you. Straight, clean, and specific. The basketball fit with our current identity. The cap mechanics in a second apron world, the price Miami would actually ask for. The kind of third-team architecture that bypasses aggregation traps, the realistic windows in the calendar, and the one non-negotiable standard I hold as a fan who wants a parade, not an engagement spike. Start with the court. This version of Golden State has a late-game backbone that doesn't rely on tricking the whistle or praying for deep threes. Butler's mid-post tempo compresses the floor in a way that gives Curry choices instead of chores. Draymond remains the switchboard that turns 5 defenders into one mind. Kuminga is taking steps from athlete to organizer, which gives Steve Kerr more lineup courage. Drop a two-way wing into that mix, someone who runs lanes without calling for the ball. Can credibly guard 1 through 3, slide to the 4 when matchups demand, and crash the glass with quiet greed, and you sharpen everything this team already does. You weaponize inverted pick and rolls with Steph's screen to force a mismatch. You punish zones because the new wing sits in the slot as a real threat. You run delay actions with Butler above the break. And you make it miserable for star scorers to feel comfortable in the middle of the floor. That archetype isn't theoretical here. We lived it. We watched it carry a road identity through hostile buildings. We saw it turn fourth quarters into slow squeezes, not track meets. The film already exists. Now the ledger. The CBA is not a mood. It's a wall. The Warriors live near the second apron, which means you don't get cute with aggregation to meet a salary number in the high 20s. You either send one real contract out, or you find a third team that supplies that single, clean slot heading to Miami while we deliver the assets. You also don't take back more money than you send, and you don't rely on off-ramp exceptions that no longer exist for teams in our tax neighborhood. That's why people who casually throw together 2 or 3 middle deals to reach a number are living in yesterday. The move we're discussing only survives the rule book if the math is honest and the slot is singular. And that's where leverage travels in interesting ways. Miami keeps value high. They always do. They don't blink first on wings who defend, cut, and score in rhythm. If they listen, they want a premium useful first-round equity with friendly protections, a young piece they can develop or flip, and money they control. On our side, the question is never can you overpay. It's, can you pay enough without hollering the reason you're trading in the first place? Because a reunion that costs your rotations, balance stops being a reunion and starts being a poster dot. So what do the windows look like? Early calls in October are about temperature checks, no drama, just table reads. If Miami feels it needs more north-south rim pressure from the guard spot or wants to reopen the books next summer, value can soften at very specific moments, right before a long road stretch when they reassess usage. When option year dynamics enter the conversation, or when a third team waives an expiring single-slot deal that cleans the Heat's near-term cap posture. The trade deadline is where fantasy usually dies, but it's also where exact fit deals appear because teams stop negotiating with hope and start negotiating with standings. Late June is the other window. Option decisions, draft boards, and cap clocks create crossroads, and a front office that plans 3 summers ahead, and we do, will keep that calendar page dog-eared. In both windows, the same truth rules. Second apron teams have to be surgical. No almost math. No, we'll figure it out after. You nail the number, you nail the timing, and you don't play yourself .basketball fit deeper. Plug the returning wing next to Steph and Butler and watch how Kerr can get back to the old misdirection without straining possessions. Spain actions become sharper because the back screen is set by a true vertical athlete who can ghost into space if the tag comes late. Horn sets gain a second elbow scorer who can flip the angle and crash the weak side. Inverted pick and rolls turn small guards into passengers when the wing screens for Curry, forces a switch, seals, and either finishes or sprays to the corner. And that corner? It matters more now that our spacing has a mid-range heartbeat. Goes 2 on Steph, looks get punished without asking Draymond to be a scorer. Instead, he's the connector again, hitting the wing on the short roll where the defense is already bent. Defensively, this is the whole argument. Butler takes the alpha ball handler when needed. The returning wing eats the team's best finisher. Draymond orchestrates behind him. Kuminga toggles between disruption and containment. You can blitz without panic because you'll have 2 wings who tag the roller and still recover to the corner. You can switch late in clocks and live with the results. You can run drop with length on both edges. Most important, you end defensive possessions with rebounds because the returning wing boards like a big in playoff traffic. That's how you win Game 5 South that feel like coin flips. Price with honesty. Miami isn't gifting a 2-way wing in his prime. If they even entertain it, they'll ask for a first that means something, not confetti, and they'll make you prove you can beat other offers from teams with cleaner books. Our reply has to be discipline. The pick you trade must be placed with intention right year, right protection, right swap language, so you don't throttle future flexibility. The young piece you'd add can't be a panic sale. It needs to align with our timeline and replaceable skills. And the contract that leaves, if it must, cannot be the emotional thermostat of the room. That's where some fantasies die. You don't sacrifice the identity you're trying to strengthen. You reinforce it. That's why third teams matter here. A partner with a single contract between $25 and $32 million, a reason to pivot, and a taste for picks can unlock a path that keeps our core intact. Those frameworks exist every year. They just require patience and clarity. I'm telling you this as a fan who actually wants the parade route, not the viral clip. Let me anchor this in the week we just lived, because context drives value. The season opened with a road win defined by composure, not noise. The scoreline said 10, but the tape said control. Butler's 31 were built on smart shot locations and defensive discipline. Curry steered the pace and hit the moments without chasing heat checks. Kuminga's line flashed the kind of maturity you need when the whistle goes weird on the road. That's the version of Golden State that can plug in a wing and scale up without a learning curve. You don't need to rewire the playbook. You add an old chapter back. And that's exactly why the conversation returned. Not because of panic. Because of opportunity. When a team already looks coherent, the right reunion amplifies strengths instead of covering flaws. That's when you buy. There's another layer, the human one. The player I'm pointing to knows our language. He knows what it means when Steph points with his eyes. He knows that when Draymond calls out a color, there's a coverage change, not a randomness. He knows where to stand when Butler throws a no-look that's really a reroute. He understands that sometimes the best shot is the screen that frees the best shot. And he's proven he can take the opponent's star and make him work uphill for 6 straight games. That trust shortens adjustment periods to weeks, not months. And in a West where margins are thinner than ever, that matters more than a shiny new toy that needs 30 games to settle in. Now, I want to be crystal clear about the standard I'll keep. This is not nostalgia radio. The only reason the reunion moves from idea to action is if it raises our ceiling in May and June, if the price strips our depth, if it trades our voice in the locker room, if it burns a pick we'll need when the board presents a true top 5 opportunity, then no. You hold. You bet on what's already working. You use the market to find smaller, cleaner deals that harden the rotation without ripping it apart. But if the number lines up, if a third team supplies the single slot, if Miami chooses flexibility and value, and if our coaches look at the fit and say this turns close wins into comfortable wins, then you go. You don't hesitate. You reunite with a wing who is already proven he can be the adult in nasty playoff moments and let the rest of the league deal with 2 elite on-ball stoppers and the greatest spacer alive. That's not a romance. That's a plan. For anyone who needs the name spelled out at this point, yes. I'm talking about Andrew Wiggins and a pathway from Miami back to the Bay. That's the headline people are passing around for a reason. And after everything I just laid out, you understand why it's not just a throwback poster. It's a present tense fit. The numbers require discipline, the ask will be firm, and the timing will be surgical. But the basketball? The basketball is beautiful. Steph manipulates the shell. Butler squeezes the middle. Draymond reads. Wiggins finishes the possession on the glass, on the cut, on the contest, on the last rotation when stars get tired. That's a blueprint, not a fantasy. I'll keep saying it. You win playoff rounds by stacking adults who solve problems at speed. Wiggins is that, and this roster would let him be that again, without asking him to be something he's not. Let me bring it home with the bottom line I promise. The main story right now is a reunion rumor with legs and obstacles. The legs are the fit and the familiarity. The obstacles are the second apron math and Miami's ask. My stance is professional and simple. Stay in every conversation. Price this with a champion's discipline and use our clean start to negotiate from strength, not need. If a third-team framework presents a single matching slot and the draft capital lands with protections we can live with, you take the call seriously. If the cost pulls the spine out of the room, you hang up and keep winning with what you have. Before I wrap, I want your read because this channel is built with smart fans. How much would you give up for a Wiggins return under the current rules? And which single-slot contract around the league makes the most sense to root through a 3-team design without thinning the rotation? Drop a comment and let's map it together. If you're here for honest, grounded coverage from a fan who treats the game like a craft, subscribe and turn on alerts. I'll keep you ahead of the curve with clean cap math, real on-court analysis, and zero fluff. Short, direct closing from me to you. Andrew Wiggins back to Golden State is the right idea if the market blinks and the math behaves. Until then, we ride the identity we've already seen Curry steering. Butler setting the late-game tempo, Draymond conducting. Kuminga growing, and we wait for the exact moment when a smart price turns a good team into a nightmare.